legalised pepper spray. Give me a call, 1300 222 774. Would you welcome that? Would you carry it for self-defence? Libertarian MP David Limbrick represents the southeastern Metropolitan region in the Legislative Council here in Victoria. David, welcome to the program.
Hello, thanks for having me.
So what if we legalise pepper spray? In your view, a good idea?
I think it's a fantastic idea. All Victorians have the right to self-defence, but without any means of exercising that right, it's like it doesn't exist. Now, there's a lot of people in Victoria at the moment. I know a lot of people in the southeast metro who feel unsafe and want some means of protecting themselves. And I think pepper spray is a great way of doing that. It's non-lethal. It doesn't require a lot of training. It's cheap. It's small. You can carry it in your handbag. And there's lots of people that support it. It's legal in lots of places around the world. And as we've seen recently, Northern Territory's moving towards legalisation of it. I think that Victorians need some means of self-defence. The police can't be everywhere. They can't always get there on time. And I'd like to see, when I see attacks, like violent attacks that happen in Victoria, the thing that goes through my mind is I always wonder, could this have turned out differently if the victim had some means of defending themselves? And I think there's many Victorians who feel vulnerable and want some way of defending themselves against thugs.
So right now, David Limbrick, if someone has managed to get, maybe they've travelled to WA and they've got access to pepper spray and they've used it in Victoria in a case of legitimate self-defence, is that still illegal?
It's illegal to possess pepper spray in Victoria. It's a prohibited weapon, so they could very well get into serious trouble for that. I don't know whether they'd get into trouble for defending themselves, but they would certainly risk getting into trouble for possession and use of pepper spray. Yes, it's a prohibited weapon in Victoria. What
about, obviously it's a prohibited weapon for a reason, isn't it? Isn't there a real risk that it could be used the wrong way?
Well, the thing about criminals is they use weapons already and they can just use whatever weapon they want. They don't tend to use pepper spray to commit crimes because it's not actually a very good offensive weapon. Like if you're going to physically harm someone, spraying them with pepper spray first isn't a good idea because you can't actually touch them. If you're going to rob them, you can't really use it for that either. And so it's not really a very good
But it does work to sort of
weapon.
neutralise someone, doesn't it? That's the whole point of it being a defensive thing. Could that not also be used in an instance of aggression?
Sure, it could be. But like I say, criminals already have weapons and they tend to use machetes and guns at the moment. And I don't think that they're going to switch to pepper spray just because it's legalised and all of a sudden they want to start following the law. That's not really how it works.
So how did it end up on the prohibited weapon list?
It's always been there, I think, pretty much. And it's in Victoria. You're actually not allowed to carry anything at all for the purposes of self-defence in Victoria. So there's nothing that's legal to carry for the purposes of self-defence. Now, if you find something and use it for the purposes of self-defence, in a situation, that's a different story. But if you're carrying anything for the purposes of self-defence, technically you could be in trouble in Victoria.
So, David Limbrick, how would you do it? I note that, for example, the trial in the Northern Territory, you have to be over 18, no criminal history. You'll only be able to buy the OC spray from a licensed firearms dealer. So that's really taking it to another level. What would you recommend?
Look, I think it should be widely available to law-abiding adults. I think what they're doing is fairly sensible, although I think restricting it to firearms dealers is a bit over the top. In many other countries where they sell it, they tend to sell it at sporting goods places. It's pretty common thing to be able to buy in many countries, and it doesn't really cause a lot of problems. I know a lot of people speculate about it being used for bad purposes, but if you look at jurisdictions where it's legal, that doesn't really happen much.
David Limbrick, are you going to try and push this? Are you interested in trying to actually get this change onto the agenda in the Victorian Parliament?
I've been pushing this for years, actually, and I've been pushing. I'm not the only one. The number one group of people that want pepper spray that I've spoken to is women. There's lots of women that feel vulnerable. In fact, a young lady, her name's Jade Howard. She was running she's like an Instagram influencer. She ran a petition and she managed to get 15,000 signatures of women who want pepper spray legalised in Victoria. I think that sooner or later, the government is going to have to admit that the police can't be everywhere all the time, and Victorians want some way to fight back against crime. And, the government always talks about empowering women and fighting back against crime. Well, let's empower women and fight back against crime.
David Limbrick, thank you for being part of What If Wednesday.
Thank you for having me.
David Limbrick there, Libertarian MP for the South Eastern Metropolitan region.